Tov.
Shalom.
Okay.
You know what disaster? Pilzno.
Ma nishma, yeah.
I see him all the time.
Baruch Hashem, shalom aleichem. So we're going to do a chazara. We'll do chazara. And then we will, Be'ezras Hashem, prepare to step in a little bit more. The goal is to speak about tefillah, something about tefillah, and then the hope is to start with the Selichos. Again, we're not going to go all through all the Selichos. Be'ezras Hashem, to look at least at Ashrei and Kaddish and the Yidgin Midas, to look at the main aspects of Selichos, and hopefully to get somewhere. At least to know that we spoke about it when we get up. And probably we're very exhausted and tired, maybe not if we've had a couple of coffees or if we're saying Selichos at night. So, yeah. So last week we left off with an Avodah to Machabed, to try and generate a greater respect for the Beis HaMedrash. That we call the Beis HaMedrash the womb, the Rechem. And when we perceive the Beis HaMedrash as the Rechem, and when we come to be within the womb, and we come into the Beis HaMedrash and look at it as a rebirthing experience, that which we do in the womb should be different for us. It should create a different experience, and it should put us in a different place. So we spoke about the richness of coming into the womb, and the words of the tefillah that come out of our mouths. That's the umbilical cord, connecting us to the Shekhinah, connecting us to all the higher worlds. And there's many different ideas and ideals that come with tefillah and that come with the Beis HaMedrash, and unfortunately sometimes it gets lost. So we left off by just coming to the Beis HaMedrash and re-anchoring ourselves. We brought the Heilige Jikafer, the Jikafer, the grandson of the Robshitzer, of Naftali Zvi Robshitzer. He expresses this absolutely beautiful idea that the Yom Tovim is realigning ourselves, becoming Yashar once again, coming into flow, coming into a place where everything is connected. There's a deep level of connection. And the Avodah, as we mentioned from Rabbi Yisrael Salant, and definitely by the Pilzno Arba, the conversations that we had coming into this time period, Elul and Tishrei, was that of Harchavas Hadas, coming to a place of Das, coming to a place of inner self, essence, which was recognizing we're the observer. We're the observer, and we have midos in the nefesh. And what are the midos in the nefesh? Yehurim, fleeting thoughts. Those thoughts that just come up to visit. You have emotions, feelings, and you have physical sensations as well. We are none of those, but they are part of us. They're part of our expression. We're the part that can observe all of those. So when, for example, the annoying thoughts come up, we don't have to engage. We can just let them pass, just as the clouds float by in the sky and the boats float across on the river. So too, any of the midos, any of the thoughts, feelings, even physical sensations. It's an amazing thing because sometimes we get caught up in our midos. We get caught up in our midos. If you imagine that you're on a boat, so you're on a boat and you're in water, you're in the sea, and then you see an iceberg in front of you, and there are clouds in the sky, and it's raining. Each element looks vastly different. The rain doesn't look like the iceberg, and the iceberg doesn't look like the clouds, and the clouds don't look like the sea. Yet they're all made up of the same stuff. It's all the same stuff. It's amazing. It's different manifestations of the same stuff. So that's what the midas are. The midas, the nefesh haba'ami, and everything that comes up. It's all the same stuff. It's all either an illusion that we can get lost within, or it's us riding a boat on the sea with an iceberg now that we're passing, raining slightly with clouds in the sky. We're the observer. We notice this. We notice and we can notice, and we have to notice, to have a liberation in life, to change our states of consciousness, our perception, to relinquish the control that we so badly want, that hurts us so much. I was speaking to somebody today, and they were so sure that they know what their brother-in-law and their sister-in-law thinks. And this person is so sure that they know that they think that he is a less of a husband than his brother-in-law. His brother-in-law is a fantastic husband who's helping his wife, and he struggles. He struggles to follow what his wife says. He messes up a lot. And he's so sure that he knows what they're thinking, that they're looking at him a certain way, they're thinking about him a certain way. And he felt he has to justify it. And he would get very annoyed, very upset. He'd become very defensive. And I simply asked him, what would happen if you were not so sure that they were thinking that? What would happen if maybe you can come to realize that you never actually know what anyone is thinking? And what would it be like if you weren't so sure? What would it be like if actually they were looking at you and they were saying, look, this guy's really organized and successful. This guy, he tries hard, he struggles, and he really tries hard. What would that do to you? What would you do? Who would you become? What would you be like if you let go of those thoughts and you could just be present? And he explored that. Life would look very different. So many people get caught up in pain and misery, and there's no need to. There's no need to. We don't know what other people think. And even within ourselves, we can come to a place where we can just observe what's coming up. So this should be our default setting. This should be every human being's default setting, to be a baldas, to know that we are the observer. And we can observe, and we have to speak about it, and we have to practice all the things that we need to practice to come into das, to come into a place of being the observer, and growing and changing, having qualified and quantified change in our lives. And all of you know, you don't need me to tell you, all of you know the experience of liberation because you felt it, you've been there. And hopefully as a community we will grow more into that and will flourish more. So the tefillot that we daven, when we come to daven, it's a time of reclaiming our das, reclaiming self, coming to a place of elevated self. When we come to the Beis HaMedrash and we daven a Shema Koleinu, we're reconnecting to the goal, to our values, that we should be healthy, decent listeners, just as the Rabbi Shalom listens to us. We should be listeners. Or whether it's Bnei Yerushalayim, that we are builders of Israel. We're here, living here. And we are doing whatever we're doing to build Israel. Every element of tefillah is relevant in the here and now to who and what we are. Every aspect of tefillah should be revitalizing our deeper beliefs. It should be the place where we go when we struggle. I've tzedek v'mishpat. When I'm struggling, I can get caught into my struggle, or I can remember I've tzedek v'mishpat. Hashem is baruch. I've tzedek v'mishpat. And I could run that, I can go into nefesh, and I could draw strength from that. I could draw strength from Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. I could draw strength from that. So every time I come to the Beis HaMedrash and I give proper respect to the womb, and I connect my umbilical cord up, connect the tefillahs to the belly button, download or upload, whatever the technical word is, all my beliefs and all my values. And then when I walk out of the Beis HaMedrash, I gracefully, with care and sensitivity, take those beliefs with me. When I get stuck, when I struggle, I have a place to refer back to. Or if I'm having a good day, living with those beliefs, living with those values. The default setting of how we should be living, Adam Yashar. To come back to flow, to come back to the zone. And we express that Yud is Yediyah. Yud is Yediyah, Das. To know, intimate knowledge. Shiur, shmiya, to hear, but really to listen. Once we know, once we have that awareness, we have to listen. And then what happens is our whole avodah, the avodas, it says in the sixth parak of the Tanya that we were learning this morning in Shir, it's the avodah of Tikkun Amidos, coming to daven, Tikkun Amidos, to mamtik v'midos, which is re'iyah, reish, yud shin reish, re'iyah, is that now we have a new perception on reality. I can let go of what was, and I could develop a new perception of reality. So Baal Shem Tov as well calls this in Keser Shem Tov, Kaf Kes, Hachna Avdallah Hamtaka. Hachna Avdallah is coming into Das. It's listening. And then it's being fixing up, sweetening. Hamtaka, Re'iyah, Reish, looking at things differently. This is something which we have to come to reaffirm. Not once a year, obviously. We have every single day a Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and a Sukkot. Every single day we have Purim, Pesach. So it's constantly to come back to the Adam Yashar. Place where we do that here in our Beis HaMedrash. Here in our Beis HaMedrash. I'd like to share with you something which I think is very profound if we could really come to grips with it. And we were speaking about this in Shir in the wee hours of the morning to America, one of the American classes. What were we talking about? We were talking about the two worlds that man can live within. The two worlds that man can live within. What are those two worlds? The first world is the world of Teva, Olam HaTeva. Olam HaTeva. There's a second world that's always there for us, and that's called Olam HaPela. Pela is the world of wow, the world of awesome. I said it good? The world of amazement, the world of fascination, Olam HaPela. Olam HaTeva is the natural world we live in. So what does that look like? That's living life autopilot. Sometimes having sprinkles of, sometimes we get into the Olam HaPela. We may not realize that it's called the Olam HaPela, but it's there, it's always there for us. The Olam HaTeva is the world which is the natural worlds that we sometimes find ourselves within. That we just eat because we're hungry. We sleep because we're tired. It's the world that you get in the car and you end up in your destination that you're planning to end up at. And you just got there, you know what I'm speaking about? You just get there. Well, what happened in between point A and point B? Where did I go? You just end up there. Or what's even funnier is when you want to get to a particular destination and then you take a familiar road and you end up at home. It's like, what? I was meant to be over here. And you end up somewhere else. Has anyone done that before? I've done that before. Want to get somewhere and I take a familiar road and I end up. It's like, where did that just go? What was that? Kvitza Saderach? Olam HaTeva. Olam HaTeva is the world that we naturally react to through our midot. A person says something to you, you explode, you get annoyed or upset, get angry. You like that? Yeah. So Olam HaTeva is where there's a stimulus and then there's a reaction. And there's not really much space in between that stimulus and that reaction. Olam HaTeva. There is, though, this wondrous world, this amazing world, called Olam HaPela. Olam HaPela. The world of wow. And it's a state of consciousness that everyone can access. Everyone can get to it. It's easier when you're a Baldas, because part of being a Baldas, as we know, the Pilzno Arba used to say, turn every frustration into a fascination. Turn every nisayon into a nisiyah. Turn every nisayon, every struggle into a journey. Every frustration into a fascination. The Olam HaPela, is really where we should spend a tremendous amount of time. And that is when we approach Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot, when we're coming to realign ourselves, coming back into flow. Our capacity to do all of that is related to being a Baldas. Now, what would life look like to you? Think about it for a minute. Imagine. Use your minds. What would life look like if you would become fascinated by frustrations? What would that look like? How would that feel? What would it look like? I remember when I was a kid, and I've said this a few times already today, it's actually interesting. I remember my Abba, my father, I think he still does, he would look at us. He would look at the children, he would just stare at us. He would just stare at us. And I once asked him, I said, what are you doing? He says, you're beautiful. You're beautiful. Just to stare, you stare at a loved one, and you look at them, you a friend, you just look at them and stare at them. Sometimes it feels a little bit strange if you're not used to it. But it's profound when you can have, and I've done this with people, you have a couple. I did this a couple of weeks ago. And I could do this with this couple. I know them, usually when they have an argument, I laugh. It's my cue to laugh. I've even, when they've had an argument in the office, I sit back, I put my feet up. Let the entertainment begin. You know, if you don't have a television, I have to entertain myself somewhere. It's my drama, my neighbors, my EastEnders. Home and away, I have a couple, they're arguing with each other. So I said, let's do a game, let's play a game. I'm going to play a game. I want you just to look in each other's eyes. Just to look in each other's eyes and just spend time looking in each other's eyes and just say, wow, just become amazed. Let yourself become amazed. And just look at each other and notice each other. And both of them obviously were doing what within a few minutes? Crying their eyes out. Crying their eyes out. They actually never looked at each other's eyes. She said, I look at my husband very much with an evil eye. But they never looked at each other's eyes. And it was really a profound transformational experience for them. When you stop and you look at something, when you stop and you notice, you really notice, everything becomes quiet and everything fades away into the background that really doesn't need to be there. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine doing that? Could you imagine looking at a child, looking at a friend? Could you imagine doing that? It's an intimate moment in time that lasts forever. Olam hapela. Now you could do the same with everything. You could do the same with a flower. You could do the same with listening to a piece of music. Just to stop, notice, and become fascinated. Notice what you have not noticed before. Olam hapela. It's there for us always. It's there for us right now. It's there for us every moment of the day. Yes, we can't live there the whole time, fine. But a tremendous amount of our life can be in Olam hapela if we would allow ourselves to go there, to allow ourselves to get there. Kippur, Sukkot, it's a time of coming back to the Olam hapela, to the consciousness, our default setting of being present and observing from a much deeper place than normal. And you could just stop. You could just stop. And the Pilzno Arba encouraged this. He said to me, stop and just stare at something. See what happens where it begins and where it ends. We were looking in his house. Look at the table, the phone, the computer, whatever it may be. Just stare at it. Stare at it. How it sits perfectly in this moment in time. How the cup it's landed, it's being placed perfectly for the continuum of the universe. Just look at it and notice the background, and the foreground. Notice how the cup could never ever be a cup in the sense of being a cup right now without the table being there to support the cup. And then the table sits on the floor. And the floor is connected to a building. You just expand. It's very, very powerful. It's an unbelievably powerful meditation. Everything is interconnected. There's no such thing as one thing not being connected. There's an unbelievably deep yichud. I've once done this for 4 or 5 hours, just expanding, taking my focus, placing my focusing on something, and then just letting everything unfold, and then moving to something else, letting it unfold, moving to something. I've done it 4, 5, 6 hours. I've done it. It changes you. You look at something like, oh, you get this superhuman perception. But it's an unbelievable thing, because when you see something, you never just see it for the isolated thing that it is. It's part of something so much bigger. Olam HaPela. And then that creeps into your natural organic life. That creeps into Olam HaTeva. So any time that you're in Olam HaTeva and you go to Olam HaPela, when you come down, don't just think you're coming back down to Olam HaTeva. No, you bring down some of the wondrous Olam HaPela down to the Olam HaTeva. And this dance, this relationship, just grows and grows and grows, expands, deepens and deepens, amplifies and stretches. And you act as a different human being. Olam HaTeva and Olam HaPela. Any questions so far?
One question, Rav. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is the time of judgment. There is a Mekatrek, there is Sinagog. So this is the best time to be happy. This is the best time I come out from this world and scale your zechuyot and your awareness and the Kodesh Baruch make a judgment. Maybe sometimes better for that.
For what?
For come to Olam HaPela, to be happy with every detail of your life. It's the best time, it's a time of judgment, it's a time of fear, it's a time of changing yourself.
It's definitely a time of change, and these avodas, this mindset is change. This mindset is coming to a different place. It's dealing with the judgment. It's dealing with the judgment. It's very fascinating because halacha l'maisa, the days of Rosh Hashanah, it's a very confusing day, because on one hand, yes, it's a time of judgment, but then there's another side where we're told to be b'simcha. The Vilna Gaon says one should not cry. One shouldn't be sad and cry. One should be happy and joyful. It's based on the Nehemiah in Tanakh. And even people misunderstand the Arizal. The Arizal says, if tears come to your eyes, it's not that you force yourself to cry. The Arizal in Shar Kavanot, it's not that you force yourself to cry. Rav Chaim Sinwani Zechron Livracha, he would say that if tears come to your eyes, if you're moved that you cry, cry. But don't force yourself to cry. It's not a day of crying. So even by the Arizal, there was an underlying current of simcha.
Unlike Yom Kippur?
Yom Kippur is actually the happiest day of the year.
I mean,
We're told Yom Kippur is the happiest day of the year. Why? Because Hashem is Baruch is Machaber. So we don't have many sad days. So now, when we are in Olam HaPela, and we realize there's this relationship between the Olam HaPela and Olam HaTeva, you can be doing the same Seder every day. You could be doing the same Seder every day. But let me ask you a question. Is it the same Seder every day? Is it the same schedule every day, day in, day out? No. It doesn't work like that. When a person's feeling dry, when a person's stale, It's because they're too much in Olam HaTeva. But the minute you translate yourself, you transcend into Olam HaPela, then that which is the norm is never the norm. It's completely different. And the Rashash tells us in the Hagdamas of Rechovos Hanar Daf Gimel, B'chol yom na'aseh every single day is a new day. There's no day that is the same as its chaver. That every single day is a new day. Every single day is a new day of creation. There's no day which is like its friend. So yesterday, it will never be like tomorrow, and today's not going to be like 2 days' time. No such thing. And we even say in our tefillot, when we say in our tefillahs, that Hashem is Barach, He creates the world every day. Kel Baruch. Yeah. Hashem is Baruch is recreating the world moment to moment. This is what we spoke about a couple of Yom Kippurs ago, the wow theory. It's to do with tshuva. That every single moment in existence is fresh, is new, is different. And it was never like what was. That means you can let go of everything. This is to do with the Rambam, with Azivas Achet. La'azov, to leave behind what was, to move into a future. Being present in the moment. So no 2 days are alike. So the Rashash says in Nahar Shalom that we have a chiyuv to daven every single day. And even though the tefillah is the same, davening 3 times a day, Shabbos we have a musav, and then we have other variations if it's Shabbos, if it's Rosh Chodesh. It's the same scheduling within the words that we say. However, because what we're told, the Mekubalim explain, Rechovot Hanar, that every single day is a new day, every single davening is a new davening. We even know that the day split up into Chesed, Din, and Rachamim. Mekubalim explain Chesed, Din, and Rachamim. So even within a day, we have 3 elements of hitchadshus, 3 elements of newness. So when we speak about tefillah, we have a chiyuv to daven, as the Mabit tells us, in Ted Vav, based on the Psukim, B'chol levavecha, B'chol nafshecha. We have the Gemara in Tanis that tells us the avodah of the tefillah, the avodah of the leiv, is the avodah of tefillah. We have a chiyuv to daven. We have a chiyuv to daven. When we know that the creation is created every single day, and even within the days, creation is created. Chesed, Din, and Rachamim. A new Chesed, Din, and Rachamim every single day. So our tefillot should be different, must be different. There needs to be to keep us alive, to keep us awake.
It's a very interesting concept because most people do not follow this line of thinking. Most people feel that today is like yesterday, every day is the same. We go through the same motions over and over again. We start the day, we drag ourselves into minyan, the same thing, over and over and over again. I'm reminded of a movie called Groundhog Day. And this movie was about where, we call him a Russia, not a great guy, and he was a reporter, and he found himself in this small town. It was Groundhog Day. That's sort of a day in America, whatever. But the point of the movie was that he had this day, and then the next morning he gets up again, and it's still Groundhog Day. Same time, nothing's changed. And every morning he can't get out of this town because every day he wakes up and it's still the same day.
What do you mean? It's not the next day?
It's not the next day.
He wakes up that day.
He relives the
Let's
same
say
day.
he
Relives
meets
the same
him
day.
he meets you buying milk, right?
Right,
So the next day he sees you at
Right.
the same time.
So what happened?
Just make sure for me it's a good scheduling day.
So what the movie was about, what the whole concept of the movie was that every day in small increments, he starts changing for the better, okay? Now, where all the pieces of the puzzle at the beginning of the day are the exact same, because he starts changing, they start changing. Okay, even though it's theoretically supposed to be the same day. Now, of course, you get this valuable
Very
lesson,
deep
wonderful,
thought.
very deep, right?
thought.
Now, if we would take that movie and what you've just said, how different would our lives be? Because we, in a sense, we have Groundhog Day every day, because every day we go through the same crap. And we think of it as just one extension of another. You know, it's like, tomorrow's going to be the same day. I'm going to drag myself out of bed to come to Minyan, I'm going to daven for the Yom, yada, yada, same thing. But if I woke up tomorrow morning and it was really yesterday, it was today, I'd freak out. Right? I'd freak out. I'd have something to say, wow, I need to do something. And then I'd start, because I want to escape from that. I want to change things. So, just a very interesting concept.
It's a very interesting Matthias is that the guy had to relive the same day in order to change, while on one level of our existence, so many people are living the same day.
That's right. In other words, what I got from that movie was that the truth is most people live the same day every day of their life. There's like one day, and they keep living it over and over and over and over again. And it goes to something you taught me many moons ago about the theory, the Jewish theory of time versus the traditional theory of time, where in the linear, if we're going from today till tomorrow to the next day, what does this mean? It means that tomorrow's going to be like today, and there are going to be some variations, but it's this. When I discovered the circular time, the Jewish theory of time, which my analogy is tiles on the ground, okay, which means I can pick any tile I want to stand on today, and I don't have to go to the next tile. I can jump. I can walk around. Okay, go to different tiles. That gives me the option to really change tomorrow, to make tomorrow totally different than today. But we need to be reminded, which is what you're talking about.
This is everything that we're speaking about here. It's important as a chevra. It's important as friends. It's important as a community to remind ourselves to be balei das, to get to the default setting. And you should know something. We're speaking about das, but I want to tell you something. That really the secret is we don't care about das. We want to lose ourselves. We don't want to be in a state of awareness. We want to lose our awareness in a state of tikkun amidos, that we work on autopilot, but from a healed, non-fractured place, which eventually we'll speak about, but that's not for the next, probably next few years. So what happens is that, look, it's taken us a number of years to get here, so it's good, and remember, it's a community, it's with a chevra. If we expect our avodah to be real, if we expect our avodah to be real, it needs to be real. We're not here a one-day seminar, and then we go home afterwards, and we don't see each other. We hope for the best until you pay your next $2,000 for the next. It's a relationship. It's a relationship. We come to this place. We meet each other, and it should remind us. It should